the system of equations. We must deal with them all at once. Always looking for solutions. Positive outlook overcome.
Hello, my name is Roy Simpson, professor of mathematics at Cosumnes River College in Sacramento, California. This video is for those students in linear algebra who are just learning about matrix equations. Specifically, you're probably getting into linear combinations of vectors. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to take, in this example, 3 vectors and take the linear combination that we have right here of those 3 vectors and write that linear combination as a product of a matrix and a vector. Now, just as a reminder, if you have a matrix A, and it's an M by N matrix, M rows, N columns, and you're multiplying it by a vector, and in this case, I'm just calling the vector C sub 1, C sub 2, all the way to C sub n. So it has N elements, or in other words, it's in Rn. Then that product could be written as the product of the matrix A, where the matrix A has been written as a bunch of column vectors. A sub 1 as a vector is the first column of the matrix A sub 2 as a vector is the second column of the matrix A, all the way until you get to the nth column of A. Remember, A is M by N. M rows, N columns. And just to remind you, when you multiply that against a vector, C1 through Cn, we get the following. A linear combination of the column vectors of A. This is actually a really cool way to think about matrix vector multiplication. In the problem we're presented with here, we're asked to go the opposite way. In other words, we're given a linear combination and we're asked to write it as the product of a matrix and a vector. Our coefficients here would be pi, that would be playing the role of C sub 1, -3 would play the role of C sub 2, and -10 would play the role of C sub 3. Otherwise, those vectors, v1, v2, and v3, well, they're just some random vectors. They have not handed us those vectors at all, so we're just going to build a matrix that has those vectors as its columns, just like we have here. So this means that pi times v1 as a vector, -3 times the column vector v2, -10 times the column vector v sub 3, that is going to be the matrix with its first column being the column vector v sub 1, its second column being the column vector v sub 2, and the third column being the column vector v sub 3 times the vector whose entries are those coefficients. You could write this more succinctly if you choose to call this matrix right here maybe V. Let's go ahead and call that the matrix V. And there you have it. That is that linear combination written as the product of a matrix and a vector.
It's the system of equations. We must deal with them all at once. Always looking for solutions. Positive outlook overcomes obstacles getting in our way, cause affects more than we can sometimes see. Things for what they are and work together until you feel at peace. Just listen close, don't talk too much that isn't kosher. You may really hurt inside. It doesn't justify you to speak too loud and cry.